Hello guys, welcome back. In this lecture, I am going to explain how can we call a function by its value in various types. We can differentiate a function with same name by passing the various number of arguments and types of arguments. Okay, so it is a very easy lecture and you can understand it very easily once you have been solved an example. So what are you waiting for? Without any delay, let's get started. So I'm going to explain number of arguments and types of arguments. Okay, so first include a library file. Okay, so the same function, main function, which can add two numbers. Adding two numbers you already know. Int a equal to take some number, comma int b equals take some number, and I'm going to pass a function with the name sum. Okay, sum of a comma b. Simple. So write a function with the name called sum. Okay, the return value would be int sum. The passing arguments would be int x comma int y. Okay, so what to return? Return x plus y. Simple. So copy this line, paste this line here. This is very important. If you forget it, you will get an error, and sometimes you may not understand where you got that error. Okay, so I'm gonna print what I'm going to print. The sum is, not id, is percentage d, since it is an integer, comma c. Okay, then let's get it compiled and let us see. So I'm going to name it as function calling. Okay, just a name, you can name it anything. The sum is 40. Is it correct? 30 plus 10 is 40. Yeah. Okay, so we have added those two numbers. For suppose I want to add one more number, c equals something 20. Okay, I want to add one more number and I want to print it as d. Okay, I want a and b to add, and I want to add a, b and also c. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the same name. Okay, sum int x comma int y comma int z. Okay, sorry, space z, and then we have to return, sorry spelling, return x plus y plus z. Okay, now I'm going to return x plus y plus z. I'm going to write another int with the name d. Okay, d equals sum of a comma b comma c. Simple. What I have done, I have taken the same int, same function, but what I had changed and written an extra integer here. Since I want to add three integers, I had written three integers, and here I had added another integer called c here, and this is the main thing. Copy it and paste it on the top. Write a semicolon here. Cool. So I'm going to print that, printf the sum is, what is the sum? Percentage d, since it is an integer. Okay, percentage d comma, what's the value? D. Okay, cool. So let's compile it, and there is an error. What's the error? Int c equals sum of a comma b, and it is showing here in function int main. What's in function int main? Redeclaration of int c. You know what, we have already declared c here, and we have declared the c here also, so we need to change it. you need to change it to AB, change it to D and let it be D here, and I'm sorry, change it to D, A comma B comma D int E. Okay, so I'm going to print E. Nothing to confuse, I just changed the names, nothing change in coding. Okay, AB, or else we can do here, we are declaring ABC int D as sum of these two inputs, E as sum of the three inputs. Okay, so I'm going to print D comma E here. Simple, the sums. You can see check the code here. I have passed two arguments. I'm returning x plus y. I'm passing three arguments and I'm returning x plus y plus z. This x plus y is stored in int D and this x plus y plus z is stored in int E. The same name, but the number of arguments are different. Here 2, here 3. So this is called the number of arguments. Okay, function calling using number of arguments. See, same name but different number of arguments. Since there are two arguments and here there are three arguments, it will return this. This will return this. This will return this. Okay, I'm going to print this. Now see, you can see the sum is 40, the sum is 80. So let us keep it in a new line. And how much the value? A plus B would be 40 and A plus B plus C would be 60. 40 and 60. See, 40, I'm sorry, 60. 30 plus 10, 40 plus 20, 60. Yeah, the sum should be 60, but we are getting 80. Let me check it again. Okay, A comma B comma D we are adding. See, we have to add C. Since why we are getting that output? See, I'll explain why we are getting. A plus B is 40 plus D. D is another 40. 40 plus 40, 80. Since D is A plus B is 40, 40 plus 40, 80. If we change the D to C, we'll get 60. Check this output, 60. So sometimes in multiple choice questions, you will get these kind of things. See, he will give A, instead of A, B, C, he would give A, B, D, and he asks us to choose the answer. And what we'll do? We'll think we had added A and B. 30 plus 10 is 40. So 40 comma. We'll see without seeing here C or D. We'll just add these three numbers. 10 plus 30 plus 20. So it would be 60. So what it would be, 40 comma 60 you would tick. But if it's D here, there would be both options, 40 comma 60 and 40 comma 80. So you should choose 40 comma 80 if D is in place of C. You should check all of these constants with proper care. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to execute and you can see 40 comma 60 as output. So this is nothing but number of arguments. This is the functions are of same name, but we are passing different number of arguments. Okay, so the C compiler is smart enough to recognize how many number of arguments the user is passing, and since we have declared it here, it will see, okay, these are two arguments, so I need to do this function, we need to execute this function, or since this is the argument, these are the number of arguments passed, we need to execute this function. So the C compiler is strong or good enough to execute this kind of stuffs. Okay, and this is called number of arguments. It can differentiate the number of arguments, okay, between the number of arguments. And what is types of arguments? What are types? What are data types? Int, char, float, long, double, something. These all, etc. These all are called the types of arguments. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take float values. Okay, float E over, right, f comma g. I'm going to take f comma g. F equal to something 23.65. okay, and g equals 45.76. so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add these two float values using the same name, okay, same function name. So what is this float? What we need to return? We need to return a float value. Float sum of float x. Okay, we are passing the arguments of float. Okay, float y, and I'm going to add this. Okay, return x plus y, and the most important thing, we need to copy this and we need to paste it here. Okay, command C and command V. And what we need to do now, we need to have a float of g, and next is h equals float h equals sum of f comma g. Okay, and we need to print this. So what we need to print, printf, the sum is percentage f, right? Percentage f comma h. Okay, nice. So will it execute? Will it work properly? See it? Are there any mistakes in here? Will it work? Let us see. It worked. It worked perfectly. See the sum of 23.65 plus 45.76. It has given the exact output. See, you can see. So the C compiler is smart enough to recognize the types of arguments the user is passing. We are passing two float values instead of two integer values. If we pass two integer values, it would execute the first, like the third line. And since we have passed two float value, it has executed this fifth line. Okay, this fifth line function. This fifth line function is in from the 25th. Okay. So can we pass the arguments like one thing as float and the other thing as int? That's a good question. Let us check whether we can pass or not. I'm going to write here float I equals sum of one integer a comma one float value f. So since I am passing int comma float, I need to write the functions. Okay, I need to write the return value would be float sum of one is integer int a comma another thing is float int x. Okay, int x comma float y. What is going to return x plus y. Okay, return x plus y. One is integer and another is float. The most important thing, copy this and paste it on the top. Why I'm saying important means whenever I try to execute these arguments, these functions, I just forget to write these and I'll search for the errors, where the errors are, and the whole program is correct, but the main thing I hadn't mentioned them here. Okay, that's the mistake. So I'm telling you again and again, please see whether you have written those functions, declared those functions on top or not. Okay, I'm going to print the value as the sum is percentage f comma what is the float value I. I'm sorry, we should keep it I here. Okay, so let us execute and see whether it executed perfectly. We have added a and f. What is the value of a? 10 plus f is 23.65 and 33.65 is the answer. Wow, we got it. We got the perfect answer correctly. So we can pass two different types of arguments to a function. We can call a function by two different, okay, not only float, int, we can also call it by int float. So I have another question. Since we have declared int and float and we have passed here integer and float value, what if I pass float j equals sum of f comma a? So this is a float value and this is an integer value, right? So what if I pass a float value and integer value? Will it go to this function or not? Okay, I'm going to print this thing. Okay, print the sum is percentage f, right? Percentage f backslash n, comma, what's this, j, semicolon. So will it execute? Will these two execute in the same thing? I mean, the sum int comma float or float comma int is same or different? Let us see. Oh, we got an error. So what is this mean? What does this mean? C compiler is smart enough to recognize the order. We have passed here int comma float, but we have declared here float comma int. So C compiler will not accept. C compiler is smart enough to recognize the order. Okay, so what we need to do? Nothing, just copy this and paste it again, but this time I'm going to pass float and int. Okay, and I need to copy this and I need to paste it on the top. Okay, semicolon, and execute this. See, it worked. It worked again with the same value, since we passed the same values. Where here a comma f and f comma a, same values, right? The sum. So it's very easy, and it's very easy to understand. The number of arguments means C compiler is smart enough to recognize how many arguments we pass with the same name of the function. Type of arguments means C programming or C compiler is smart enough to recognize the type of arguments we have passed with the same function name, and also it is smart enough to know the order, whether you are passing int float or float int or float double or int double, everything. So what I'm going to suggest you is, you try a different thing, like instead of addition you try subtracting the things, and instead of passing the int and float you can pass a float and so another thing like double or long int, you can pass anything. Okay, so try a different methods. Okay, try the different number of arguments, try the different functions overall. Okay, or you can try the greater than or less than symbols. Okay, which is greater and which is less, you can return anything. So it's very easy. Number of arguments, types of arguments. The thing is, if you want to master in these programmings, you need to understand and you need to practice more and more and more, so that you will be perfect. And trust me, you will not forget this in your lifetime. Even if you do not see for a long time, if you get to listen to lectures or do the practice for a week or so, you will be again the same programmer who you programmed a long time back. Okay, so it's very easy to understand the programming. Don't feel any confusion, and if you have any confusion, please let me know in the chat window below. Okay, I'll definitely reply your chats to your questions. And before keeping any question, posting any question, please check the discussion form in the chat window. Okay, so that if the question you are going to ask has been answered already, you would save some time. Okay, so please check the form before giving any or putting any questions before me. Okay, so this is a very easy topic and an interesting topic. You have learned I think you have learned a good thing today. Okay, so that's all about this lecture. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.